Hello! I hope you guys are all okay and all good. Welcome to another video. My name is George. For those of you who don't know, feel free to subscribe down below if you're not already. And this is a lockdown TBR. For those of you who have been here for more than 10 minutes, you'll know that I don't often make TBRs. I used to make them all the time and occasionally I would stick to them, but most of the time I wouldn't. And I found that in general, I just read better when I read by whim, which is a Simon Savage phrase. For anyone who's a fan of Simon Savage, who I love. So normally I would just pick stuff up off my shelf as I wanted to read it, or if it was something I just bought, or something that was new out, or something that had been sent to me. But considering the fact that we're in a lockdown and I'm reading a whole lot more than I used to, if you've watched my last video that was bookish and not a vlog type video, it was me talking about like 6 books that I had read since the lockdown started. And I've already read 2 more since then, which will come in a review video at some point. So I thought it was a good idea to create like a pile of books to kind of create mini TBRs as I go along, just to sort of tide me over and so I know what I'm going to read next. Because if you are anything like me, you will be the kind of person that is spending so much time trying to figure out what to read next. You'll just stand there and look at your shelves for a really long time and just, you'll look at all these books and you'll not know what to do with yourself. That's what I do. That's what I spend a lot of my time doing. That's why I get nothing done. So, something that I do when I'm struggling to figure out what to choose to read is that I ask Jordan to choose something for me to read. Jordan is my boyfriend. Reasoning for that is that he has no emotional connection to any of these books, so he will very much just pick something that he thinks sounds or looks good, which is kind of amazing and kind of what you need sometimes. So, I have 2 choices that are from him and 5 choices that have been made by me. So, I've actually made some decisions for this video. I hope you appreciate that. It's really hard for me. So the first book that Jordan picked out for me was All About Mia by Lisa Williamson. This, I have recently realised, is the only Lisa Williamson book that I've not read, despite having a copy of the hardback and the paperback. What is wrong with me? It's one of those things where I feel like I talked about it so much and I talked about Lisa so much as an author who I love that I just forgot that I'd not read her second book. It's really weird because I feel like I know a lot about it and I feel like that's just from talking to her and talking to other people, and so I feel like I knew a lot about it and I thought that I'd read it, but it turns out I haven't. So I've started reading this. I'm like 28 pages in and I'm really enjoying it so far because it's a Lisa book and Lisa just writes people. It's great. So All About Mia is about a girl called Mia who is the middle child in her family. And she has a high-achieving older sister and a high-achieving younger sister, and she's feeling a little bit crappy about the fact that she is just this messy little thing in the middle of this perfect set of children between these 2 perfect kids. So it is her figuring that out. Her sister comes home and drops a bomb of news that completely throws everything through a loop for her and her entire family. Very excited to probably get into this because I'm a huge Lisa Williamson fan. As I may have made abundantly clear, if you've not read The Art of Being Normal and you've not read Paper Avalanche, girl, you're missing out. I also have her new book, First Day of My Life, up here, which will probably feature on the next one of these. The next book that Jordan picked for me is one that's been on my shelf for a really, really long time. I remember buying this and I bought it for the cover, which is, I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Are we allowed to judge books by covers when we all do it anyway? But that book is Althea and Oliver by Christina Moracho. Althea and Oliver is a book that I've had for a very, very long time. I bought it at Waterstones. I bought it because I thought the cover was really fun and interesting looking. I don't know a huge amount about what it's about because, like I said, I bought it for the cover. But from what I can gather, it is about 2 best friends. Althea is in love with Oliver, and Oliver has like a rare sleep disorder that means he just can like fall asleep and forget like days at a time. So I'm interested to see how that dynamic works. I'm interested to see how it works as a book. And Jordan picked this one. I don't know why. He picked 2 books that both have yellow spines. Maybe he's in a yellow mood. So those are the books that Jordan has picked for me to read in the next little while. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to read these. That's another thing. Like, given the pace that I've been reading recently, like I think a lot of those books that I had in my last one, I read over the course of like a week or so, whereas I've picked 7 books here, so this might take me a little bit longer. But my plan, if I've not mentioned already, my plan is like I had last week, is to every couple of weeks be able to do like a little wrap up of the books that I've read, and like mini little reviews in this, you know what I thought of them, and whether or not I think they're worth a read. I don't know how I will react when it's a book that I don't like. I might just not talk about it because I don't want to like spread that energy. Tell me what you think I should do with that. The next book that I have picked to read is The Past and Other Things That Should Stay Buried by Sean David Hutchinson. I feel like I bring him up often enough that I have like a set line that I say when I talk about Sean David Hutchinson, which is that I love him. And I've read The 5 Stages of Andrew Brawley and I've read At the Edge of the Universe, and they're both absolutely brilliant books. And I have We Are the Ants and this, and I've not read them yet. But this is one that I bought while I was on holiday in America with Jordan. This is about a boy called Dino whose best friend July tragically dies, but suddenly comes back to life, and the two of them find themselves navigating why she's come back to life and why their friendship ended so badly. So it's a very high concept book, which seems to be sort of the Sean David Hutchinson brand, is like big high concept idea but contemporary at its heart. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. I've heard incredible things, and like I've said numerous times before, I'm a huge fan of 2 of Sean David Hutchinson's books, so I'm excited to read this. And with that in mind, the next book that I've chosen to read is We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson, because I spend so much time being like, I have it on my shelf and I've not read it yet, because that just seems to, that annoys me when I have to edit that over and over again every time I talk about him. We Are the Ants is about a boy called Henry. From what I understand, he's got a lot of problems in his life. His mum is struggling to cope and chain smoking her way through it. His grandmother has Alzheimer's. His older brother is a college dropout with a pregnant girlfriend, and his boyfriend has just committed suicide. So he's going through the ringer in that sense. Also, when he was 13, he was abducted by aliens, and they keep coming and keep on taking him back onto their ship. And I just realised how strange this book sounds, but I'm kind of really into it. They've also told him that the world is going to end in 144 days, and they've given him a big red button to press so that he can stop it, and he's not sure whether or not the world is worth saving. So that's kind of broad strokes what the book is about. I've said this numerous times. I love Sean David Hutchinson's books. And I love that he'll take something really huge and really conceptual in a contemporary setting and just makes it work. So I'm excited to read this as well. As I've already said, big fan. So we'll see how this is. And then finally, I'll be able to sit here and say, I love Sean David Hutchinson. I've read almost all of his books, because I've still not read The Apocalypse of Alina Mendoza, and I don't have a copy of it either. So at some point that'll happen. The next book on this lockdown TBR is Running with Lions by Julian Winters. I've had this book for far too long. It's been sat on my shelf for ages. Actually, for a while it was on my desk, because it was like, I need to read this soon. I'm going to put this so that it's like constantly visible to me, and I've still not picked it up. This is a gay contemporary romance that is set at a soccer camp. Yes, it is set at a summer training soccer camp. And I was really intrigued by the concept. Simon James Green had said a lot of lovely things about it. I follow Julian on Twitter and he seems really great. I want to read his other books as well, but I have this one now. And yeah, it just sounds like it's a concept that I've not heard of before in a YA novel, like a sort of YA soccer football if you're in the UK contemporary romance. So it's like gay footballers. Like I see nothing about this that I'm not gonna like. So these last 3 I've realized are quite short books, and the next one that I picked up is Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzales. I've heard great things about this. It is a gay retelling of Grease, which is essentially like a perfect book for me. As you know, I'm a musical theatre geek, so I'm a huge fan of musical theatre generally, and to have a gay retelling of Grease feels like something that I didn't know I needed it, but now that it's there, I want it. So yes, I'm very excited to read this. I have no idea what it's going to be like. I've heard great things, so we shall see. But this, oh yes, I'm excited. And last but by no means least, when I posted that I had bought this, there were a few comments and a few people that said, oh, I'd be really interested to know what your thoughts are on this one. So I bought a copy of Infinity Sun by Adam Silveira, which I'm a big fan of. Adam Silveira. History Has Already Left Me is one of my most favouriteest books ever. I didn't love They Both Die at the End as much, but it was still a great book. And as ever, I've still not read his collaboration with Becky Albertalli, but this is his most recent book, which is like a sort of urban fantasy set in New York, kids with powers, trying to save the world, that kind of vibe. I'm really intrigued by it. Like I said in a previous video, I've heard like good and bad about it, so I'm intrigued to see what it's like. He just revealed the title of the second book and everyone is really buzzing. So I want to give this a go and I want to see what it's like. I've said this before as well, I'm not a huge fantasy reader. Like, there are some fantasy, I don't know, like I think I'm just very picky when it comes to fantasy. I'm gonna put this down. I think the thing with me in fantasy is that I don't know, I don't read a huge amount of it, and I don't know why that is. I think it's because I get daunted by like big books. Like maybe that's what it is. Fantasy books are like big boys. So like I think I get put off by books that are like really long. So I think that's why I don't read like a huge amount of fantasy. Fantasy that I've read, I'm trying to think of a fantasy that I really didn't like, and I can't pick one from my brain. Like, I loved Holly Black's Curseworkers trilogy. I loved The Cruel Prince, Spiderwick Chronicles, Chaos Walking trilogy. Like, if I sit down and I get into one, I'll really get into it. So I think I just need to open myself up to more fantasy if I want to become a fantasy reader. I'm not really that fussed on becoming a fantasy reader. I kind of like my YA contemporary place that I live, but yeah, I just think I need to stop being scared of big books. Literally, it's really, really bad, but I'll look at a book that's like 500 pages and I'm like, oof, or more than that, and I'm like, really? Are we doing that? Like, that's so bad, but that's just what I'm like. So I do need to read more fantasy. As you can see, I have like I have the whole Frances Harding collective here. So maybe this is when I need to get into Frances Harding and other fantasies like that. We'll see. Maybe we'll try some more fantasy. Maybe in the next one of these I'll try some fantasy. But I've got 7 books to keep me going. I'm going to show you them again. There we go. 7 books I'm going to be reading in the next couple of weeks. A lot of, I mean, like, these 3 in particular are books that I've been meaning to read for a really, really long time. So that's super exciting that I'm going to finally make myself get to them. This is what I'm reading at the moment. So maybe I'll just go in this order, or maybe I'll just read them as I want to read them. Let's not set an order. We've already got ourselves a TBR. Let's not be restrictive on when I have to read them. If you've made it this far in the video, please leave that stack of books emoji in the comments below. And do feel free to let me know what you are reading during this weird time. What is in your TBR? What are you most looking forward to read? Maybe I've got Game of Thrones up there. Maybe I should try and read Game of Thrones. God, that'll be an experience. Gonna go in and start trying to read fantasy and you go in with like these hefty, like... We'll see. We'll see what will happen. That is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, don't forget to put a like on it and subscribe down below if you want to see more. I love each and every one of your faces and I'll speak to you as soon as I possibly can. Bye!